Good day, everyone. Another tutorial, and this time we're going to focus on just a couple of neck muscles, and it'll be surprising how much of a difference this makes to your gestural drawings. These neck muscles really give life to the figure. I don't know how, just these little tweaks of curves coming from the neck down to the chest or the neck to the shoulder blades can really give some character and life to your figure drawing. So I'll begin with this. Shouldn't be a very long recording. There's only a couple of muscles. As you can see here, there are quite a few muscles that make up the muscles of the neck, but we won't go into every single one in detail. I'll just go over the very important main muscles that you would see protruding from the back of the skull and behind the ear. So we'll work on the front, and what we've got here is an example of a uh, sort of, I think it's just a head with a bit of bone protruding from important parts, like you can see on the cheekbone and the clavicles. And I'll just show you the muscles that we'll be focusing on here today. So I've got a little gesture of the head from side on. And I'll just put in a shape for the neck as well as a top plane for that rib cage. And I'm adding the clavicles. So we say it like that. Okay, the ear. But the eye socket there. From here, there's like a little process, if you could feel it behind your ear, and that's where this neck muscle called the sternocleidomastoid. Oops. Trying to change the color here so you can see. It's sort of shaped like this. There's two of them, one behind each ear. It looks kind of like an upside down cricket bat. So that connects from the mastoid, and it'll curve around the contour or the cylindrical shape of the neck and connect at the sternum or this manubrium, the top of the sternum there. And we'll have it on the other side too, that comes around and would meet the clavicle, well, the end of bit of that manubrium there. There's also, if you can see here, we've got our muscle we can see here. I can't get this to draw at the moment for some reason. Let's see this. No. I'll move this layer up. There we go. From behind the neck, behind the ear, down to that manubrium. And same as the other side. Usually if someone's sticking their neck out, you've got this other visible muscle that comes off of that, and that connects. You've got a little divot there that shows where there is not muscle. So there's that divot, and then there's this other muscle that connects just outside of that manubrium. So a little bit of a distance there. So you'd probably get a little inkling of it showing from that side. And if I was to draw it here, it would just be coming off this, and it's called the sternocleidomastoid. So we've got this is the sternal area, clavicle, cleido, and mastoid, the mastoid process. So that's what this, I guess the name of this muscle comes from. I put this little example up here. I think it's a Michelangelo gestural sketch. You got the head there, neck, ear, the uh, the rib cage, and we've got the clavicles. And I'll change the color again. Let's try this. So from the back of the back of the back of the ear to the to the sternum, and this side here also. And you can see it pretty easily in the example here. So it connects from the behind the neck to the clavicle, and then the other side also. And here we've got a bit of volume that is showing there. Just a little hint at it there. Okay, so let's move on to another example. Let's drawing. Okay, and what have we got here? Well, that was pretty quick on the neck muscle there. So I'll just, before I go on to this bit, I'll go through this again quickly, the sternocleidomastoids. So starting here again, we've got the head, says looking this way. And I'm looking through the figure, drawing through. Okay, so let's just go through this quickly again. Behind the ear, the center bit of the clavicle, and then it's got a little deviation as well. It isn't so prominent in this sort of pose, but it would be if if the model was sticking their neck out. So this is the main muscle that you have to remember for the neck. Now, from behind, there's another story where we have quite a large muscle called the trapezius. And here's our example here. So before I go through with this example, I'll show you what it would look like, just sort of front on, looking at the back of the figure. So that's the base of the skull, and we've got the rib cage and the shoulder blades, the scapulae. Now, it's made up of 3 levels. So there's the upper trapezius, middle part, and the middle fibers and the lower fibers, but we'll simplify it into one group. And what you've got also, there's an important area here called the C7. It's like a really large bone, kind of in between the shoulder blades, just a bit higher, and you can feel I can sort of feel a bigger bone than the other vertebrae around there. So that would be a C7. Okay. Now, let's do one side. It goes from the base of the skull, and it'll connect. Remember, we've got the AC coming from the scapula, and it'll connect like so. Okay. What it does is these fibers will sort of come around that C7, meet again, and then the bottom the bottom of the trapezius will meet at the C12 joint of the vertebrae. I think it is C12 or T12. I can't remember exactly. I think it's the 12th joint of the thoracic region. It's just basic. It's like sort of below the edges of that scapula. Okay. And the fibers will be coming down like this. So they'd be meeting at the top of that blade of the scapula. It comes over the corner there and then it continues down. Over here, it sort of avoids that C7 area and then meets up on the vertebrae and goes down. And okay, we've got this happening on the other side also. There you go. So if I was to look at this example here, let's just boost it up a bit. I'll draw over this figure. So you've got the cranium, and because his head is leaning back, it would be really sort of contracted, these muscles. And you can sort of see how he's shown that pinch there. Now I'm going to identify these scapulae. Okay, the cranium process would be coming out like that. And okay, what we've got, this area here would be the C7. The trapezius, it meets at the, it goes to the front also, like you've got the front of the head. And if you were to draw the clavicles in, trapezius, it comes and meets like the outer third of the clavicle and the acromion process. So it would go like, it'd meet like that if you were to look at it from the front. And that's what I'm drawing here. If you look at the model again, it'll meet the front. It'll go over that blade of the scapula, have that little indent. Well, it covers the corner of the scapula, and it'll curve back down. And you can see a hint here. I'll go backwards, go up, and this bit, it's pretty compressed, so it would look something like this. Okay. It'll take practice, but if you're going to remember anything out of this, remember what I've just done here. And then also remember the concept of stretch and squash. So if this head is leaning back like we just saw, you can see the artist has really compressed that to show that it's compressed. Well, just to emphasize that the head is leaning back, and also you can see this contraction here, whereas this area is stretched. We'll go through another example. Let's have a look what we've got. Hopefully this is making sense. If it's not, just ask me in the comments, I guess, to elaborate on anything. And even if you see me making mistakes, point them out. So, we're all here to learn together. Okay. I'll just try and figure this out on the side here. So I'll just do the gesture that we all should be practicing often, drawing quick gestures. And this is the rhythm I'm feeling of this figure. And remember, you're just using it as reference, doesn't have to be exact. I'm guessing the C7 is around here. If I was to see through his cloth that he's carrying on his back, that scapula would look like so. This one, I think I've got it wrong. They're going like this. And it meets the the chromium process like that. Now, okay, can't really see the back of the neck too well, but because of our knowledge, we should know that we've got a trapezius coming around from that area there, meets the top blade of the scapula. You've got that little bit of the trapezius going over the corner there, and then it will go down. I'm not even looking at this at the moment. I'm just remembering what we've learned. I think there'd be a bit of a so it'd be contracting, actually, not contracting, squashed is the word, because his head is leaning back, and then cover that edge, and that would be stretched. So this would be a bit more contracted, and this one would be stretched a bit more. So if I was to draw some contour lines, it'd probably look something like that. Well, that's how I'd interpret it. Everyone's got their own interpretation. Okay, that's how I would see that trapezius. And also remember, it would be going, part of this trapezius would be meeting the front that we can't quite see. And it'd be meeting the front on the outer third of the clavicles. So this is the outer third. It'd be coming from the back to the front, like so. That's probably a bad example. I'll show you again. Okay. So if we were looking from the front, I'll do another 3/4. Okay, neck. Those clavicles would like that. Remember, we've got our sternocleidomastoids, rib cage, chromium process. You should probably know these terms from the other videos, but I'll quickly go through it. Scapula. If I'm looking at it here, I'm looking through the rib cage. It has that little shelf that comes forward and meets, I believe it meets the clavicle like that. Okay, this is this area here. And then the trap would come from the back of the neck and meet the chromium process, as well as the outer third of that clavicle. Like this. Okay. Should be making sense, hopefully. Another example. Did we already do that one? No, we didn't. Okay, I'll go through that quickly. This one quickly. Now, again, gesture. And I'm feeling that vertebrae of his. Was he carrying a rock of some sort? He's really bearing the weight of that item that he's carrying. Okay, and I'm exaggerating it, this drawing a little bit also. So the scapulae. Now I'll change the color and we'll put in those trapezoid muscles, trapezius muscles. Base of the neck. Okay, C7 around there. And you can see that hollow there, sort of. Now, it's contracted a little bit because he's squashing it up against his neck there. Okay. And we've got a little bit, you can see the shadow of the scapula there. That would be like that. Okay. With connecting. So again, from the base of the cranium The inner part along the vertebrae avoids that C7 and then meets up on the vertebrae again and ends up at the T12 thoracic. Remember, from here, we've got a bit of squash. Mine's a little bit different, but it's going to meet the blade of that scapula, come down, and you've got quite a stylized trapezoid. From this side, again, meeting the AC along the spine of the scapula, got the little indentation. Where am I finding it here? Let's look for some little hints. Scapula, I think, would be like this, sort of similar to what I've got here. And then it's quite stretched on this side, whereas this side is more contracted. Okay. Hopefully that's easy to understand. Let's see what we've got next. I think only a couple more examples and we'll wrap it up. Now, good example here. So this area here, it's like a diamond, and that's where the C7 lays in there. You can see a tiny hint of that because of this tiny shadow you can see here and up here. Okay. Now let's draw in the underlying structure. So we've got the rib cage like this, I'd say, and I can see this blade of the scapula like that, and on this side, because the arm is going up, this scapula is sort of emphasizing that it's going forward and up. Remember, the scapula, they're not like flat shapes, they're curved and they follow the contour or the form of the roundness of that rib cage. So they slide depending on the pose. So this arm is going forward, I'm suspecting, and that's why this scapula is kind of pushing out that way. From the base of the neck, we've got this contraction here, or the flexion. We go around that C7. This is all part of the trapezius. See, you've got these different zones. So this would be the upper fibers, the middle fibers, and the lower fibers. But just think of it as one big shape for now. I would like to keep things simple. Again, here, this trap meeting along the top blade of the scapula, and then we've got the fibers coming and meeting down at the T12. Remember? Some fibers here going the form. And one more example. Okay, so this is just showing, I wanted to show you this one just because it's got part of that trapezius from the back. It would be coming from there, and it does whatever it does on the backside, and then this is, say we split this clavicle into 3 parts. This trapezius will meet the front of the clavicle, the outer third like this, Okay, and it also, if that's the acromion process, it's touching that too. I don't quite see it too much here, but it would be resting on it like so. This is the sternocleidomastoids that we looked at in the beginning. Remember, from the behind the ear, and one more deviation there, and then you've got this little divot here where there is not really any muscle. It's just where this sternocleidomastoid does not exist. It sort of forks out, and it's got that dip in the middle there. So quickly, before we wrap it up, I'll show you from the front. Okay, we've got the oval of the head. We've got the rib cage here. Clavicles, very rough. This is the ACs that comes from the scapula at the back. Now, the sternum. And let's put in our sternocleidomastoids that come from the back of the ear and will thickens out in the middle and then thin at the end. Okay, and then it's got these little forks that come out also. And on the outer third of that clavicle, you've got the trapezius. Now this individual I'm drawing is looks pretty sturdy and muscular, but sometimes this area can be more like concaved on a skinnier person. Okay. Now from the back. So we've got the spine, and I'll draw a bit of the rib cage, scapulae. Not the best drawing, but is just to get our point across here. Oh wait. Acromion process. It's hanging off the scapula that meets the clavicles at the front. Okay. Where are we? We just need to change our color. Orbits coming from the base of the what did I say? Orbit. It's from the front. Now we're looking for the base of the neck. Well, the base where the spine meets the cranium there. So we've got a band, two bands coming out, part of the trapezius. Now that'll meet the front area. This will meet the spine of the scapula. And then you've got also the bottom part of the trapezius. Okay. And these are the fibers. Okay. And this goes down. We've got muscles underneath the trap, like rhomboids, but we won't worry about that for now. We're just going to concentrate on these superficial muscles. And this is a very important muscle. These traps give you some life to your drawings, like I said in the beginning. So that's it for today. We've focused on neck muscles, particularly in particular the sternocleidomastoids and the trapezius. Only a couple of muscles there, but like what we've been doing here, just look for some reference material, gesture in the head and the rib cage, and make those connections, and see how you go from that. If you got any questions, always comment, and I'll probably continue on with this anatomy series, and we'll focus maybe on the muscles on top of that scapula that connect to the upper arm. So until then, Take care and happy drawing.